Well, hello and happy Tuesday. I am back for another episode of Motivation and Conversation. And as you can see, we are continuing to make progress. And I'm continuing this series and talking about my experience with Bell's palsy because I think it's important. And um, maybe next week I'll get on to what's going to be new and what's going to be happening as we proceed forward. Um, or I may come back later this week and start to talk about some of those things as I am modifying my schedule. But I think it's important to just share updates and information. And this is here again for the clarity of any individual who may be going through or potentially encountering Bell's palsy. I was just speaking to someone today who was telling me about having that metallic type taste in their mouth. And so I'm suggesting that you be mindful, they be mindful, because it could potentially be a Bell's palsy encounter. Um, so just to be mindful. But, there's so many lessons that I have taken away from this experience. And so, in addition to just sharing my updates, I want to just share some of those lessons as well, because I think everything has a spiritual component. And that's my personal perspective and belief. And the very day, and I believe I alluded to this in previous episodes, that the day that this happened, I immediately knew that it was an indicator and a message to me. And I think everything that we go through in life requires us to be aware of what it is that God is trying to say to us and how we need to apply that in our lives and what are the things that we need to do so that we can be better. Um, and not only that, but so that we can live a life that is healthier, and not only that, but live with that awareness. And so, I definitely took that part away. And so uh, it's a challenge that I have taken on and a good one, in my opinion. But first of all, I want to kind of back up and I want to get too far ahead of myself. But I want to talk about, as you can see, there is still some slight paralysis, right? But I am in a much better place than I was. So I'm able to smile, and my smile is not as impaired as it was before, but there is still some healing going on, right? And so, as a result of that, what you don't want to do is you don't want to take off the minute you are starting to feel somewhat normal. You want to continue your regimen of resting. You want to continue your regimen of massages, supplements, eating healthy and eating right. You want to, take it slow. You don't want to just, because what I am learning and experiencing, I'm telling you, I'm making mistakes, but I'm also learning lessons. And so there was one day I think I tried to do all day. That was not good. I did not feel well. I felt off. And so when you're trying to get back to a normal position and you still have this side of your face that you are experiencing, um, there's still some nerve, things going on. And so the nerves are trying to heal and get back to normal. The signals are trying to do what they have done in the past. And in some cases, it may take a while for all of that to come back. However, I am thankful that I am at this place in 31 days. So my diagnosis was on 2-1. It is now 3-3. And I am in this place and I am so very, very grateful. However, I have to still be mindful of how I am handling me, right? So that means the maintenance of my body, the maintenance of my health, the maintenance of my rest. All of those things are still super, super, super important and are of utmost priority. So, um, I've had a couple of weekends where I did a little bit of much and a little bit much, and the next day I felt it. Now, it wasn't extreme, but I could tell that my body was not adjusting well to the activity. There is still this uncomfortability that happens with the nerve when there's a lot of talking, when there's a lot of activity. And so I have to be mindful of that. As that nerve wakes up and begins to do the things that it was doing prior to, I have to be mindful relative to eating. The taste is still coming back. It's not totally 100% back. So there are things that you have to be mindful of because at the end of the day, it is a process. And so I am making progress every day. And so every day is a step in the direction of my recovery and my healing. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm equally grateful for the opportunity to be able to share it with someone who has not walked this road or traveled this path before. And so here again, Bell's palsy is an inflammation of the nerve, but also I feel heavily stress related. And so, with that in mind, for me, I have made a lot of modifications to my normal routine and my normal schedule so that I can make sure that I am addressing the things that can help me to be healthier and to not further encounter any additional diagnosis or illnesses or occurrences medically that would cause me to have a setback. So that part is super, super, super important. And so now I want to kind of talk about, you know, lessons learned. You have to be mindful of where you are and what is happening in your life, what you're doing, how you're doing it, your exercising, your eating, your resting, your activities. And as we are moving through life, there's so much going on, and there's a lot of things that are happening. There's a lot of information. So a couple of things, well, I would say three things for sure. You want to definitely make sure that you are praying and you're covering yourself in prayer and you're praying for wisdom and you're praying for direction and you're praying for understanding so that that's just not for um business or whatever your industry may be, but that's holistically for your life and the things that are important and prevalent for the time that we're in. The other thing is you want to take note of what's happening. Make sure you are journaling, right? And writing down what's happening and how it's happening and the effects and the causes of things and how you're reacting to certain things. There's certain things that I'm noticing I'm reacting to a little bit differently than I was before. Um, and so that's important because you want to make sure that if there are things that are not coming fully back or they're coming back with some modifications or imperfections, that you follow up medically with a physician of that field so that you can get the necessary attention so that you don't, overlook something or miss something. And so make sure you are taking note of what's happening and that you're documenting those things because you won't remember everything from day to day. I have, for the most part, pretty much vlogged every day, a short video just to, say this is what's happening today. This is what I look like, but I've also been doing some journaling because there are some days that it slips my mind and I don't vlog, but I don't do the video. But at the end of the day, these things are important, right? And thirdly, is to talk these things through with a family member or a friend or someone that can potentially recall things to you, ask you questions and things of that nature so that you can stay on track with your recovery and how you're developing and how you're healing. There's so many little things about this diagnosis and going through this process that has made me really think about and pay attention to the little things, right? Because there are small things that we take for granted and that we do not take the opportunity to think about in the event that I'm not able to do this, what is going to be my backup plan and how am I going to function? And there's so many aspects of our body and how our body functions and what's necessary for our body to function that we often take things for granted. Um, so it's just like the sensitivity to sound has become something that I've had to be aware of. Now, I'm a person who has been where I am musically inclined. I have sang all of my life. I love music, period. All kinds of music. And so it is something that I love. I love my music to be a little loud, but there are times that I cannot handle the music being loud or it impacts my the nerves here in the ear. So there's so much that goes on in that section. And so your ear. So you got, right below is where that nerve is. And so there are a lot of things that kind of happen in there. And so you have to really be mindful. Another thing that I discovered when showering and doing my hair. For a long time, I could not close my eye. My right eye, I could not close the eye fully. So because I couldn't close it fully, it was, and I totally it just didn't even dawn on me. So, I'm in the shower and I'm showering and realized that I could not close that eye fully, which means that created a problem for me being able to keep the soap and everything and the shampoo out of my eye. And so then there was this challenge to kind of keep the suds out of the eye and keep water out of the ear. And so, that could potentially, create issues with your ear, having an earache, things of that nature. So there's so many little things that you have to be mindful of and think about and wait until the appropriate time, so that you can adequately do those functionalities that you've been normally used to doing. And so wearing an eye patch to help with the sunlight, because there are days when the sunlight was just really irritating to the eye, and the eye would just run water, just consistently run. So there's so many little things that I have discovered and I've learned about this process that I'm just sharing. You may or may not go through the exact same thing, but there are things to be, mindful of and to think about, just because you never know. And at least you can say, well, somebody said or shared that they went through that during their Bell's palsy process. But at the end of the day, take the opportunity. If you've never heard of it, look it up, or you can go back and look at the previous two episodes as I've shared. You can see the progression. And so that's why I'm continuing to share on this topic, because I want you to see the progression from week to week. Now, prior to the first episode that I did, I had been diagnosed I was probably into my third week. And so it had started to get better. Now I was always able to speak. My speech was never slurred. Um, it was clear, communication. However, I had to be mindful of the speed of my speech because I speak fast. And so I've had to make sure that I slow down. And so, when you take the time, you can tell that there's still some slight paralysis there. But at the end of the day, it was a constant progression. And as I stated, I think in my first episode that I talked about Bell's palsy, I contributed the progress to getting ample rest. There are days when I have to, I'm feeling okay and I'm find myself going 4 hours. That's too long. I've gone too long. Normally, a couple of hours, take a break. So this is, the opportunity to just make yourself aware. Children can get it. It can happen to anybody, and it can be a virus that's lying dormant in your body, and as a result, you get the Bell's palsy instead. And so, as I stated, it's the inflammation of the facial nerve, and so that affects your eye, your smile, part of just half of your face, basically your nose, and it almost, as I stated before, feels like when you've gone to the dentist and they deaden one side of your face. And it takes time for it to wake up, and it comes back at its own pace based on, what you're doing. And so I think it was last Sunday was my first time being able to drink out of a cup in almost a month. So it was difficult initially to even drink out of a straw. So I had to find the thing that worked the best for me to be able to drink foods that I was able to eat, because sandwiches, hamburgers, anything like that, anything that had width, I did not have the capacity to utilize the muscles in my mouth and things of that nature to be able to consume those items. So there are so many little things. So I had to think about a diet plan, what kind of foods I was going to eat, and determine what I could eat versus what I couldn't eat and enjoy. It was suggested not to chew gum because it was easy to bite your lip or bite your tongue, because it's it was, paralyzed on that one side. So just so many things you have to consider. Um, so just lessons, that I've learned and things that I just want to share for your own personal clarity. You may not ever encounter it, but if you do, it is an opportunity for you to have some resources, and there are others who have shared their stories. And so everybody's process and their story is different. And so for me, I wanted to take the opportunity to share mine, just, to help somebody else. And while initially it was uncomfortable, continuing to talk to clients and, you know, not having the ability to be able to normally speak as before, it was challenging, but people were very receptive and very patient, with me. And so you then have to be accepting and patient of yourself and give yourself grace. Um, but definitely am doing much, 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 much better. And like I said, take the opportunity to document and make sure that you are seeking, praying and seeking wisdom, and that you have somebody to be accountable to as you are going through different things during this season. So, just wanted to make sure that we continued on this path of the journey of Bell's palsy and the process and the progress that's being made, and some of the things to just be mindful of and be considerate of as you go through the process if you encounter it. Um, and don't forget, continue to take those supplements and making sure that from a health perspective, you keep your immune system up, and um, also that you follow up with a physician, to make sure that everything is well. But pace yourself with your activities. It was a while before I drove. So I just took my time in driving, no real night driving, and if so, very little. So it's a lot of little things because there's a stress on the eye. I noticed my vision is different in that eye, and or was really different initially. And so now sometimes it jumps and the nerve is still, things are still happening. So just be mindful of where you are and don't stress yourself. If you are someone who has and you don't have the ability to modify your schedule a lot, and you don't have the flexibility, if you that person, do the very best that you can to get as much rest as you can. And so if that means you need to um, cook a meal that can last 2 or 3 days so you don't have to cook, that's time you can lay down and rest, right? Um, if you have children, do your best, especially if they're old enough to give them, delegate things for them to do to help you through that process, be it male or female. uh, just find ways to rest, find ways to relax, find, things that you can do to help yourself. Um, Massages are definitely good, not just the facial massages, but um, just shoulder massages is definitely good. And I know for me, that's something that is necessary, and that I don't do enough of because we get in this mode of work, work, work. I know I do. I'll speak for me. And so, but for those of you who have posted messages, who have expressed your well wishes and shared that you are praying, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your support, and I appreciate you tapping into motivation and conversation. And what I want to ask you to do, if this has been helpful for you educationally, it's giving you some clarity about this type of um, disease, then definitely share it with someone. Make someone else aware of, Bell's palsy and some of the things that happen, what it is, what it's not. Share these episodes with them, and then definitely like and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it, as we're going to be diving into some amazing things as we're coming into a season where more and more people are um, retiring, coming out of corporate. There are a lot of things that I have that's going to be on the horizon. So, as I conclude tonight, one of the things I want to remind you of, definitely go to my website. We have a challenge coming up April 6th, 7th, and 8th. and that is the Let's Get Clear Challenge. We had one at the top of the year. We're moving into the second quarter of 2026. What have you done? Have you gotten clear? And so while I have been slowed down just a little bit, I haven't stopped. And so the impact is still important and prioritizing clarity for those of us who are entrepreneurs. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, creative, ministry leader, period, we are diving into this thing of a clarity operating system. And so the Let's Get Clear Challenge is coming up April 6, 7, and 8. You do need to register. There is a nominal cost for the challenge. And so you'll want to go get registered. There's also a VIP option where you can get the recordings. So that way you can go back and you can go through this information and go at it at your own pace. Now, I would encourage you to participate. It's a 3-day challenge, just about 60 to 75 minutes each evening, each night. And then, of course, there is an additional session for VIP. But if it's something that you know you want to have, you can definitely register VIP if you cannot attend, and we'll still make sure that you get those recordings. And here again, all very affordable, of course, very affordable. So we look forward to seeing you at the Let's Get Clear Challenge. It's going to be amazing each time. Of course, we are adding content that will help you to be relevant and to get clarity in this season um, and time for your life and for what it is that you're doing from a business perspective. But listen, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for tuning in to Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. I'll be back next Tuesday, same time, place for the next episode and to just let you see where we are. Um, and then we'll be just about at day 37 or so and going into about a month and a half. So want to keep you updated on that. And then I'll have some new information to share with you on next week as we move further into um, closing out this first quarter of 2026. There's some wonderful things on the horizon. And so I'll have some wonderful things to talk to you and share with you about on next week. All right, we'll see you next week for Tuesday Motivation and Conversation.